Hello, District 15 students. My name is Mr. Nevins. This is Miss Baker, and this is Mr. Dalkey. And we are the band and orchestra teachers for the whole school district, Hall School, Reskin School, Blackhawk, and Winnebago schools. Well, we're excited today because we want you to know that any student in 4th grade or older is eligible to join band or orchestra. It's very exciting. We can't wait to show you all these instruments and have you think about whether you'd like to join and play an instrument this year.
Being in band or orchestra is a super fun thing to do. We learn many musical skills as we play our instruments together. It really makes you quite special because not everyone in the world can play an instrument. We play concerts together, we have a great time, and we learn a lot. The other thing about band and orchestra that's kind of neat is that we have no limits to how many people we can take. If you're worried that we'll run out of spaces for you, don't worry. There are no limits to how many people can be in band or orchestra. If every single one of you wanted to join, we could take you. Nobody sits on the bench in band or orchestra, everybody plays. The only thing that you have to be willing to commit to in band or orchestra is you have to be willing to practice your instrument at home. This is a big deal. The way that everyone in the world gets good at playing an instrument is by practicing. You might say it's like homework for a class, right? Band and orchestra have homework. It's practicing. But guess what? It's the world's best homework, isn't it? If my homework is playing my instrument, then that's awesome. Sorry, Mom, I have to get out my totally cool instrument and go up to my room and play. So we can take everybody who is ready to practice and get good, and we are ready to have a great year.
Today, this presentation is the first step in the process of you possibly joining band or orchestra this year. Do you have to join? No. It's your choice. We only take people who want to join. If you choose to join, we are going to start to help you figure out how to do that, and today is the first step. Today we're going to demonstrate all the instruments, tell you a little bit about how they work, what they are called, and let you hear how they sound. We want you to decide one or two of your favorites that you think you'd be interested in playing. The second step after this is in the next week or in 2 weeks, depending on what school you go to. We're going to come over to your school and everybody is going to get to try to play 4 different instruments, their top 4 choices. We'll have tables set up with all the instruments and you'll go to one of 4 stations and move around the room. There's another motive for us doing that. We want to find out what your favorite is, of course, but we also want to find out what you might be good at. And that's why we call the instrument fittings times. We're going to fit you to an instrument. And it happens for a lot of kids. Sometimes you'll have a favorite, you'll try it, and it just doesn't really go well for you. It doesn't really click for you. You have a hard time playing for whatever reason. Everybody's different. You might go to your second pick and boom, that instrument really seemed to fit you well. It worked, you had an easy time making a sound, you really like it. You may never have even considered that instrument before, but you're like, wow, I did really well on this. So that's what we're going to be determining next week or the following when we come to the schools. You're going to get to try 4, and they're called fittings.
After you try your 4 instruments, we are going to write down which instruments you tried, and we are honestly going to tell you how you did. We want you to find an instrument that's going to work for you. We want you to have success this year. So we're going to be pretty honest with you. Every instrument I tried, I wasn't good at. And wouldn't you want to know if something is going to work well for you or not? I know I would, because I know I'm going to have more fun playing that instrument because I'm doing a good job and I'm going to have more success. Should you pick an instrument based on the sound you like? Yes, because you are going to be practicing that instrument at home. If you don't like the sound, you probably won't practice at home, and if you don't practice, you probably won't get good. The next thing is that you want to choose something that works well with you, that fits you well, that you made a sound on easily, that really clicks. That's a big important thing for success. Is choosing an instrument based on what your friend picked, is that a good idea? Not really. You may have a friend who picked an instrument that you may be like, well, that's my friend, so I want to play the same thing. Well, what if you didn't like the sound of that instrument? Or what if you didn't do very well on that instrument when you tried it? That's not good. We want each of you to pick your own instrument.
The last step is we will have an instrument sign-up night at Marquardt Middle School that you and your parents, or at least one parent, will come to, and you will sign up to get an instrument. Most instruments are rented, so there is some money involved. Most instruments are not free. We don't have most instruments here at Marquardt, and you'd have to rent the instrument yourself. Now, the good news is buying an instrument would be really difficult. They're very expensive. These instruments cost like $1,000 each, and some are even more. So what we know is that if you and your families had to buy an instrument, probably very few people would join band or orchestra. But the reason we have so many people in band and orchestra is because you don't have to buy them. You can just rent them instead of paying $1,000. Does that sound good? Or doesn't it sound good to pay like $25 a month? That's what a lot of instruments cost when you rent them monthly. It's really easy and much easier to afford than that $1,000 if you just tried to buy it or more. So you'll come to the sign-up night after you've tried the instruments, and you'll sign up and rent your instrument that you pick that we found was best for you at your fitting. Then you'll get your instrument a few weeks later when we get the instruments from the company so we can start lessons at your school. We'll bring it to your school to you. It will be very exciting. You will get a lesson at your school. You don't have to go anywhere, just your school. We'll come to you once a week. You get out of your class and you come down to the band and orchestra practice room and you will get a lesson. Later on, after a few months, when we've learned some notes, we will also start having what we call full band and full orchestra rehearsals. You'll get a special bus all your own, and we'll all play together in a big group. This year, the groups won't be quite as big because of COVID. We'll have to make them a little smaller, so we'll probably have different groups on different days. And speaking of COVID, don't worry. We have special masks that we'll give you for free with your band instruments that you play with your mouth so that you don't spread any germs. And we also have special covers that go over the end of those instruments that also prevent the spreading of germs. Percussion and orchestra string instruments will just wear their regular mask that they wear to school. We are doing band and orchestra completely safe this year.
So now we're going to demonstrate each instrument for you. There are instruments that are band instruments that play together in the band, and there are instruments in the orchestra that they play together in the orchestra. I think you'll find as we go through all these instruments that each instrument has its own unique way to be played. There are no two instruments that are really very much alike. So it's important you pay attention to not only the sound of it, but how it plays. We're going to start with a band instrument, the smallest one. It's called the flute. And the flute is held sideways up like this. Your hands cover all these keys. Many woodwind instruments have all these keys or buttons, kind of like a recorder in some ways. The flute, it looks like we kind of play sideways, don't we? There's a hole right here, and we put our lips over the hole, and we kind of blow down and across the hole to get a sound. We make a little airstream with our lips, and sometimes when you try the flute, you won't quite get that spot. You just got to keep trying to direct your air gently down to get the sound. Now I'll play you a song on flute so you can hear how it sounds like by itself. The next instrument is called the clarinet. It is also quite small and comes apart in pieces. The clarinet has many keys like the flute does, holes to cover actually, I guess like recorder, but the way you blow it is completely different. It's got a little reed here made of bamboo wood. I roll my lip over, put my teeth on top, and when I blow, the reed vibrates and makes the sound. This is a song on clarinet.
We don't start saxophone in the first year of band. If you want to consider playing the saxophone in your second year of band, you need to play clarinet for a year first. We have a limit to the number of people who switch to the saxophone in each grade level.
This is the violin, the highest sounding instrument in the orchestra family. These are string instruments just like guitars or ukuleles that you've probably seen before, but the big difference is we get a special bow that we can use on the strings to make a variety of sounds. So when you play it, you could play it like a guitar and pluck or pull the strings, but you could also use the bow. These instruments come in all different sizes to make them fit to you just right. There's a shoulder rest on the back that you put up on your clavicle and shoulder. You bring your jawbone to the chin rest, and then you bring the bow on top of the string like this to make beautiful music.
This is the trumpet. It is the smallest of the brass instruments, which are band instruments. The trumpet makes its sound with the mouthpiece by using a buzz. For a buzz, you hold your lips together and blow air through it. When you put the mouthpiece on it, it sounds like this. And when you put it into the trumpet, you change notes by pressing these three buttons.
As the instruments get bigger, they get a bit lower in sound. This is the viola. It looks a lot like the violin, but it is bigger. It also has lower strings, as I just talked about. As you pluck the strings, they sound like that. Like we talked before, you can pluck the strings or you can bow the strings. In our last example of the violin, Mr. Miranda, my student teacher from Elmhurst University, played. He's going to play for you again the viola, which goes on your chin.
This is the trombone. The trombone is a bigger instrument, and therefore it's a little lower than the trumpet. It is also a brass family member, which means that we make sound by buzzing on the mouthpiece. What makes the trombone special is that it has a slide that changes the pitches by moving it. It fits nicely in a case because the slide and the bell come apart like this. Now let's hear it. This is the baritone. It is a bigger instrument. It is a cousin of the trombone. The baritone has three valves like the trumpet, and just like all the brass instruments, uses a buzz to make the sound. The buzz is a little looser, a little less constricted when you use a baritone. The buzz sounds like this. On the mouthpiece, it sounds like this. And then when you put it into the baritone, you sit down in a chair and you play like this.
This is the cello. As the instruments get bigger, they get lower in sound. To play the cello, you need to adjust the end pin to your height. Your teacher will help you to do that on the first day. You bring the end pin to the ground, place the cello between your knees, let it rest on your chest, and then bring it behind your left ear. You can pluck or pull the strings like that to make a sound, or you can use the bow. That's how it sounds with the bow. You might recognize that song. While the cello's large, you don't have to bring it back and forth between home and school. We have one for you at home and one for you at school.
And the next instrument is the largest instrument in the band, the tuba. Yeah, it's a big one. It's very big, it's very heavy. We'll explain how it plays, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the tuba. First, you buzz your lips like Mr. Dalkey was showing you with all the other instruments. Bigger mouthpiece means looser lips. That's how you do that. Now, the story with the tuba is it is too big for your moms and dads to rent. It's too expensive. We have school tubas that the district owns, but because of that, we don't have that many. We only have 3. So if you want to play tuba, that's great, but we'll try you out. And the only thing we can promise you is that out of everybody at all the schools, we will call the top 3 kids who did tuba best and ask them if they want to play. Also, you get one to keep at home. You do not have to carry this back and forth on the bus. You don't even have to carry it when you play. It sits in a stand like this. You scoot your chair up and play. Okay? And here's how the tuba sounds.
The biggest instrument in the string orchestra is the string bass, the double bass, the bass. All those names mean the same thing. As we talked about, as they get bigger, they get lower. This instrument, just like the cello, has an end pin. Will help you adjust this your first day in class. When you put it up into position, you place it into the floor, into the cup, and then you adjust it by leaning it against your body. We'll help you do that in class. When you pluck the strings, that's how they sound. This instrument has a real cool, low, rich sound. And that's the bass. Again, with this instrument, you do not need to bring it back and forth from home. It's big, it's awkward, it is a little bit heavy, but not too heavy for kids to carry because we have different sizes as we've talked about before. This instrument is also limited.
And the last instruments that we have to show you from the band are called percussion. They are made up of, when you're a beginner, only 2 instruments: drums, snare drum, and bells, used with mallets. Percussion players play many instruments eventually, but these are the 2 you start out with. Now, you need to know, if you're going to play percussion, that you can't just do drums or just do bells. You get them both, and we learn both all year in band. This is a rolling case it comes with. It's got wheels, like a little piece of luggage, and you wheel around your percussion equipment. The drums, of course, everybody knows about those. These are snare drums. Sounds like this. That's pretty loud, but everybody gets a silencer pad to practice at home so mom and dad won't go crazy. Much better. And Mr. Dalkey will show you the bells.
The bells use mallets to play, and they sound like this.
So those are all the instruments available for you to pick. Did you like that? Hopefully you've learned something new today, and maybe you've already picked a few favorite instruments. Raise your hand if you think you're interested in starting an instrument in band or orchestra this year. We would love to see all of you join this year. Okay, here are the next steps for you. How do you join? Today we will hand you a letter to show to your parents. This letter explains when we'll come to your school for you to come try the instruments and when the final instrument sign-up night will be at Marquardt Middle School. Those are the next 2 steps. Your job is just to start talking to your parents about this if you think you'd like to join. And remember to bring the letter home and show it to your parents. When we come to your school in the next few weeks, we'll have much more information for you to take home as well. You may have a lot of questions today. That's natural, but don't worry. You will get all your answers soon. But for right now, we just want you to think about what instruments you like and whether you're interested in joining this year.
See you soon!